Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Experience. I'm your host, Steve Hartman, and I am honored to have my guest with me today. Her name is Brandie Wells, the breakthrough psychic. She is known for her clairvoyant readings. She has angel healings. She performs. She's also a hypnotherapist, or I'm not sure, actually, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you are an actual hypnotherapist or if you work with hypnotherapy in the services that you offer, and
Yes.
also performs angelic readings and paranormal investigations. So a lot of the stuff in the wheelhouse, but she is I'm honored to have her here. She's also the owner of a shop that next time I'm in Keene, I'm going to check it out. It's called the Shadow and Soul Tea Lounge, which I want to learn a little bit more about as well. But Brandy, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me today. Well, sit over there and join me today for this
Yes.
conversation.
Thank you.
So basically, I'm just curious. I have to go back to the beginning. How old were you, or do you remember how old you were when you first discovered that you had these talents or gifts?
Yeah. Well, when you're young, you are a product of your environment. You only know what you are exposed to. And I grew up with a grandmother. I had both parents. I have a sister. But I grew up with a grandmother I was very close to. And she uh, is a descendant of the Abenaki tribe. Most people say Abenaki, I think, but it's pronounced Abenaki. But my grandmother was bipolar with manic depression, and she was the most loving person, but she also really struggled with her mental health, and she would have manic episodes. So my mom had a very difficult relationship with her in terms of a role reversal. And when I was a kid, I used to pray. And when I would pray, because my grandmother taught me how to pray, loved ones and angels and whoever I was praying to would come to me. And I thought that's why people pray. So I would pray to Mother Mary. And I tell people this and they look at me like, what are you? But I would pray to Mother Mary and she would come in my door and float across the room with her eyes half gazed and then come sit on my bed. And I would pray to Mother Mary. I would pray to my other grandmother who had died and she would come. She'd come across the room and she'd sit on my bed and I would talk to her. So, but I thought that that's why you pray. Because when you pray, as a kid, I use different words now, but, in my mind, I thought, if I pray to them, they will come to me.
Mhm.
So I used to pray all the time. And, uh, and yeah, so I was communicating through it was my own way of invoking spirit as a young person. But my grandmother was also extremely connected, which is why I believe that she struggled so much with her mental health. But, I know I actually have a lot of clients that have mental health, you know, issues or diagnosis. And a lot of them are just highly sensitive beings that don't know how to work with that energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's do you at that age or at that point, when did you determine that it was bigger than that? That it wasn't just from there, that you actually were able to make that connection, that this was something that was more, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to use productive, but more helpful for your growing up, because there
Right.
had to have been some connection of being able to guide you as you're traversing your journey,
Yeah.
making that transition. Was there a particular turning point that you realized that this was bigger than that?
So as a child, I did that for many years. And then I was 8 And when I was 8, I had a UFO experience, and I do share this with people. It's not, it used to, it's very strange, right? But that shifted me completely because after that, I started astral projecting. And and I'll explain a few things about that in a little bit. But so if people are curious about it, you can look up the experience because it's documented,
Mhm.
and it's not just me that experienced this UFO. And if you look up the Zeller experience, or the Zeller encounter, maybe it's called Zeller. It was in 1984, and I was 8 years old. And I was looking out my back window, and I saw over the tree line this glowing orb, and it kept going back and forth across the tree line as it would get closer. And I yelled to my mom, and when you yell to your mom, and it's like, yeah, what do you want now, right? So it apparently wasn't urgent enough. Um, and before you know it, it was right in front of my window, and I yelled to my mom a second time, but this time it was urgent. And the moment I yelled, it tipped almost like a dog that's curious,
Yep.
and the whole thing tipped sideways, and it was a big tic tac shape, opalescent white with 3 lights on it. But when it tipped, it also hummed this really deep hum that went through my windows, and the windows were shaking, and the vibration went right through, and my mom's coming down, the house at the same time, and it zips off, and my mom saw the tail end of it. So it left, and the next day it's all over the papers. People all over town apparently saw this UFO. I believe it was a flight of them, a whole, like a fleet, I
Mhm.
guess, a whole group of them, because they were seen in all different areas, not just in Keene, but this Zeller experience or encounter was also in Westmoreland, which is, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes out of town. So that, for me as a young person, when I say it shifted me or changed me, that's when I started astral projecting.
Now, was that
And
voluntary, or did you know what you were doing, or all of a sudden you were doing
I
it?
did not know what I was doing. And that scared me, because what would happen is right when I would go to the deeper state of sleep,
Mhm.
I would leave my body, and I would be looking down at myself as I was leaving, and I would go places, and I would go. And what's interesting is I would go to people I knew, and I would heal them. So I was, and this is sounds so out there, but it's my life. So I've learned to just embrace it. Okay. To the
Honestly,
point
with
where,
where we are now, I don't think anything's out there anymore. I mean, we're living in 2026. I'm constantly seeing the age of disclosure. I'm constantly seeing posts on Facebook
yes,
about how Earth's vibration is
huh?
changing. And
It
so,
is.
you know, I'm all for it. I'm ready for it, the new
Yeah.
vibration.
Yeah.
So nothing is
Yeah.
strikes me as being out there anymore.
Yeah. So to the point where I still astral project, but I don't always know that I do. And I get messages from clients all the time where they will tell me, "You came to me last night and you put your hand on my head and filled my whole body with light. I've never had that happen." And or someone will say, "You rested your hand on my stomach, or you put them on my feet." And I'll tell people, "Well, I was sleeping, my soul may have been off doing some work, I guess, right?" So, but what I like people to understand is that many people astral project when your soul is journeying, moving into the higher state of consciousness as you're, asleep. a lot of people do this. And what people don't realize is sleep paralysis. When people have sleep paralysis, have you
Mhm.
ever had that,
I
Steve?
have it. It's frightening when
So
when it
you
first
were
happens.
astral projecting.
Really.
That's why. Yes. So what happens in sleep paralysis is your soul is trying to return the fragment of your soul that was traveling and doing work or going out and, connecting with other beings through your ethereal cords. When it's returning to self, it's like the blip of energy where it can't quite get back. And so we panic. And I've had sleep paralysis so intense that I mean, I think about it and I have a little bit of PTSD from it. The worst one I had was about a year ago where I don't recall, doing journeying, doing some astral projection, but when I came back, I couldn't get back and my body was it was like frozen, sleep
Mhm.
paralysis. But this was the strange thing. I was trying to yell to my husband to help me and I couldn't get my mouth to work. And he said all he heard was me going, "Ah," like this, like a sound coming from my chest,
Mhm.
but I couldn't speak
Because you
because I was in paralysis. And then all of a sudden it all happened and I woke up and I had adrenaline. I was like, oh my gosh, that was terrifying. So anyhow,
That's
I would,
interesting.
yeah,
I would not have made that connection because I remember it had only happened to me like a handful of times. I never remember. You only remember the part that you're waking up and you can't move, and it is the
yes.
most frightening. I don't
Uh-huh.
remember anything leading up to that. Just boom, this is where it is, and you're
Yes.
not doing anything. And as a child, the first time that happens to you, it's like, all right, I don't want to go to bed ever again.
Yeah, it's terrifying, your body is in flight mode because your soul is not quite in alignment. So that started happening after I had that encounter. And then it was so much for me because I feel that vibration or that hum heightened me to the point where everyone talks about being an empath and, that you're feeling what other people feel and that you're, absorbing other people's energy. Well, I was a kid and I didn't know how to control any of that. And so it terrified me. And so I shut down for a while because I heard every kid in my class why they were hurting. And so I was sad all the time because I could feel other people when they were sad or when, they were abused or they were sick or, um, and with my family, the same thing. I was so in tune with my family and, ill family members. And I feel that I had to shut that part of me off in order to function. But that's very common for
Mhm.
children because we all come in open. And in order to survive, we have to tap into that left brain, the part of us that's human, our instincts. And so we'll shut down our intuition. So, yeah. And then it didn't come out till later when
It's
I was a
interesting
teen.
that you had said that because I was actually thinking exactly what you were saying about that hum, that vibration acted as a catalyst. Maybe it was them tuning you, to or
Yes.
to trigger and to actually initiate that part for you to where it kind of was like the jolt, okay, now we're going to activate this part of you.
Right.
So when you said that, I'm like, that's exactly what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
If you held that opinion. Um,
Yeah. It shifted my vibration for
and
sure.
I agree that when we're younger, children they're still on that they're safe from the what we would consider the normal day to day when they're not at that age where they're bombarded with all the negative, all the nonsense that adults we deal with, all this other stuff.
Right.
So I believe that there's that level that until they're told to not believe in things anymore, they're tuned to everything. I
Yeah.
always believed that. I've always believed that, people who say, well, that child saw a fairy. I believe it. I believe it because if everything is taken equally before they're being told to not have those invisible friends, who am I to say that that child is not having that experience? Imagination quickly gets shut into a box
Yeah,
when
so your
we
imagination is your
right.
intuition,
So and
and I teach that. It's important.
yes, and one of the things
Yeah.
that I always would love is any child, like, I just play, create. I want to hear those stories. I want to hear all those things because
Yeah.
you have to keep that imagination going,
Uh-huh.
and it just opens them up to
Yes.
be able to think freely of their own as they get older. Believe it or not,
Yes.
at least that's my belief anyway.
I agree with you.
Now, how did the term breakthrough medium come about?
That was about 2 years ago, and I felt this shift when I would work with clients, and, people come to me seeking, and I have learned through process of channeling that I am here to identify the stagnant, thick or low vibrations in someone's energy field, and I help people shift that to break through. And when people leave me, they do feel a sense of having a breakthrough. And people kept saying that. It's like, oh my gosh, a half hour reading. And I listen to their voice, their vibration, and I receive a channeling. And we work through what spirit's sharing with them. And then we not only identify, the stagnancy, the issues, the heaviness in the energy field, but then we're releasing all of it to redirect people. So, it's really a breakthrough moment for people,
Now,
It's
do
kind of
they
neat.
have to, like, when you say the release, or is it something that is easy to do? Like when you identify something, or you're guided by the spirits who are there assisting you, and they identify what's either holding them back or keeping them blocked in. Is it an easy transition for them to release that? Or does it take, like exercises, like in order to do this, try to focus on this, try to focus on this, and eventually that heaviness will leave? Or I mean, how does that work?
So my process, I have a process that spirit has guided me to. I have taken a lot of classes and courses in enrichment, and I'm always looking to enhance my abilities or, attune myself to spirit. But my pathway to the realms is very unique to me. It's not something that I've ever seen anyone else do, but I feel that's how readers work. When you're authentic and listening to what they're puppeting you. So when I open up to someone, I call them into a sacred space with an incantation. And it's essentially like a mini meditation where I bring them into a state of deep relaxation with me to help them ground their energy and open up. It takes like 2 minutes. But that is my on switch for spirit because I don't walk around open all the time. I am
We're gonna
only
get to that because I
accessible.
was one of
Yeah.
my questions I had is like, that's gotta be noisy for you. I mean, do you see them walking the street? I mean, how does this, but if you're, I mean,
Yeah.
that's actually
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that if you want. But so I bring them into this deep state of relaxation. I listen to their voice as they say their name, and I then receive messages from their higher self, and higher self being guardian angels, spirit guides, past loved ones that are working with them. And it becomes a checklist from spirit. It's what I call a download. Then I ask them, what are you seeking? And I will tell you that 99% of the time, people are like, everything you just said. Like, how did you know that? Which is always fun. But people, sometimes they come to me like, I don't know, I'm just curious. Other times people are on a mission. I want to connect to my son, or, I need a message from my mom, or I have a big life decision I'm making right now. So, I tell people your loved ones are with you, they're not with me. And so the more open you are, you're part of the channel. I can't channel nothing, right? And so the more someone is open to the experience, even like verbally, not just energetically, the more spirit works through them to bring accurate message. So then I just work through message. And then I would say, as far as like the tools spirit gives us, a lot of times it's just identifying what is stagnant or difficult so that we can set it aside and, move on. A lot of it's, forgiveness or self forgiveness, or identifying, what's going on in the physical body, or, our emotional body, or the dynamics of a relationship. So it's identifying the problem, and then spirit brings the solution. And I teach people a lot about different rituals they can use, even if people work with God energy, ways to pray. Like I listen to what their action plan is from
Mhm.
spirit to help them sustain that connection and move through this chapter they're going through.
Now,
Yeah.
are there certain things that spirit cannot assist with?
Yes.
Because that
We
would
have
go
free
into the
will.
free I was just gonna say, so
Yeah.
they can only do so much.
Right. So for instance, if I had a client and I have a whole list of hell no's, okay? One is I will
Your hell
never.
knows or the spirit's hell knows?
Both. It goes against the grain of my work. I would never predict someone's death. And people ask. They wanna know when they're gonna die, how they're gonna die. That is n I am not God. That is n I will never go there.
So that's information, and not just for the sake of putting this to bed. It's not that it's something that lingers out there. That's just something you don't personally search for. If
Right.
somebody asks for it, you're like, no, no, we're not doing that.
Right. It just goes against the grain of, like, my moral ethical code as a medium, but I also have a pact with my higher self, my guides, and I've learned over the years how to, utilize them, and really, get my edge on how they're communicating with me in order to help the living. If someone had this potential for this new position, let's say, okay, and at work, and I'm hearing about this opportunity, I cannot always hear, the exact, time this is going to happen or why it's going to happen. Sometimes people will, ask these direct questions like, well, is so and so, going to leave, or is, what, whatever it is. And I always remind people that I listen to their greatest potential, and it's my job not to predict or to give people like life direction in
Mhm.
terms of, I don't tell someone divorce this person,
Right.
go get this job, go. But it's my job to listen to the energy around it and your potential in alignment with that and what you need to do in order to receive it. You know, if I'm hearing, okay, there is an opportunity coming up, but I'm getting a message that, you don't believe in your own power right now. And so you really need to work on being able to, speak your truth at work and communicate more effectively so that people can believe in you and trust you, you know? So I would be listening to that message. And sometimes once I get there, Spirit will say, oh, this is coming up in March. And I'll get to hear it. There's a lot of free will. There's also, uh, I had someone, this is a relationship thing that just came up the other day. And I was tuning in, and this woman's been single for a long time. And she says, I just want to know where I'm going to meet this person. And I instantly heard their higher self say, you can't share that. Like that would take away their lesson, like, and their experience.
Because then they'd be going looking for that person everywhere they
Yes.
went.
Right. And so instead I listened to the energy and I said, well, I'm hearing music. And music is good for the soul, you know? So there's a music connection here, but they're not telling me where. And I can't force that. I'm not going to fake it.
Right.
And I have to honor what spirit's coming through with. So there are limitations on information, but it's mainly, for moral, ethical, because even spirit, has their limits on what I'm allowed to share.
Right. No winning
Yeah.
lottery numbers and all that other
No.
fun stuff.
Although I did try that once and I got 3 numbers.
Well, they're holding out those other 4,
I
or those other
know.
3. See?
It was I just thought
Come
I'd
on,
try
we'll
it
give
for
you the
fun.
free $2. You'll get your $2 back. But
Yeah,
after
there you
that,
go.
we're not going to do it. So when you do, like, all right, we talked about this before we started recording, but you do events at various locations. In March, you're going to be going to a place down here in Manchester, New Hampshire, called Chunky's, and you're also doing another event earlier in the month, I believe. But when you have an event like that, uh,
Yes.
how do you? I mean, do you do that same technique with everyone who wants, or are you there and you just are able to determine, because I'm assuming not everybody's able to get read at an event like that. Uh,
No,
so
no,
how do you
no.
know who's going to be, uh, like, you're standing there in front of an audience? Do you see an aura change? Do you see an energy of their loved one there? Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. How does that?
Yeah. Well, the event in Manchester, I only have 5 tickets left of that, but Chunky's always sells out,
Yeah,
so
I'm going to have to get mine
it's going pretty quick.
quick.
Yeah. So but it's a nice theater.
It
I
is.
like the setting. I like that I'm up high so I can see the whole room. It's nice for me energetically to be able to, reach, like, there are no bad seats
Right,
in a place like that because
right.
I can access everyone's energy, So when I go into a channeling in that way, I'm not using channeled automatic writing. I am just listening, hearing, feeling, sensing, and spirit is working through me as I'm connecting. So I will open up, I ground the entire audience. I still have the same process. And I really don't care anymore if people like, I used to be nervous about people, like my process and I'm like, well, this is how I work and, take it or leave it. And people, they understand, I feel that spirit is working through me so others can engage in the process with me. So when I open up, I ground the energy in the room and then I start opening up for what I'm hearing, seeing, feeling, sensing, and loved ones will start coming in. And what's interesting is when I was first starting out, it was over 10 years ago, I used, I would close my eyes and I could see a snake line of people, souls waiting. And
Really?
I see that now every time I go to an audience. I'll see like a snake line because it's so many people in spirit and they're literally taking turns, like one after the other, to come through. And what people don't understand, so the other night it was like 100-person audience, and this woman emails after. She goes, "That's impossible. You must have had the names of people, and I don't believe it, and all this stuff." And I I didn't even host the event to have access. I literally showed up my half hour before the event, and they had all the people there. So, uh, I think it's interesting that people believe that I would not only have the time to do that, because I really don't.
It's a lot of work. I mean, the preparation you would need to do to,
Yes.
I mean, especially now with today's technology. All right, we have to look at who's going to know all that? Who's going to take all
Right.
that time to search Facebook or to do all these other things? And then,
Right, right, but the same thing with Chunky's, like, I don't run the ticketing,
no,
so all I know is there's five tickets left. I don't even know. I have no idea who's going to be there. And so when I show up, like, spirit, I feel I'm like charging the energy
Hmm.
in the room when I invoke that that incantation I was talking about, that I when I open up spirit. It all of a sudden the whole room is charged, and people will say, like, I can't stop getting chills, and it's like spirits in the room. Those chills, spirit has entered your energy field, you know? I explained to people a few things about this open forum setting. One, it's like weeding a garden, because I cannot connect to every soul, or every person. I have to slow down and really focus. It takes so much focus. And so I'm focusing on, I'm here to be at service to spirit. And so I focus on the spirit coming forward, and I push everything else away, and I ask them to step forward so they're right in front of me. And I'm having an entire conversation with them. I'm asking them, to reveal themselves to me, to tell their story. Once I identify who the spirit, everything that I can get for evidential mediumship, to prove, life after death, that they're here and this is them. Uh, I'll ask if anyone can, you know, connect with George, and he, this and that, and he had a limp or whatever it is that was coming up, right? And there will always be one person, that's my uncle. And as soon as they say it, spirit, it's like go time. It's their opportunity to talk. And so that's when message starts coming through. So so the work is validation. The gift is the message, because once you make the connection, that's when you feel spirit touching you. And that's when people, it's it's really a process to allow them to work through me.
And I would think that the end result can be, for that individual, a release of guilt that
Yes.
they've carried with them. That in and of itself is, I don't care who those other people are and what their beliefs are. If what you're saying is ringing true to me, and I'm able to feel that release and
Yes.
have that exhale, then that no one can give a greater gift than that after
Yeah.
losing a loved one,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Now, have you ever found yourself in a situation where, and this goes back a little bit to what we were discussing earlier, how you kind of turn it off. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where for some reason you couldn't, and you just kept getting, I have to talk to this person. This person won't stop. I have to talk to this person. I mean, has there ever been that
Yes.
persistent?
Yeah. I do cold cases. I don't publicize those because most times I'm approached by, state police, or, it depends on where it's coming from. But when I am working on a cold case, a missing person, I intentionally leave myself open so that I can receive information until it's resolved. So, for instance, I had a missing person who's out in Colorado, but this woman had heard about me because I do remote viewing. Remote viewing is the ability to connect to energy, and view different areas. It's almost like when I was talking about earlier doing astral projection. It's kind of like in my subconscious, I can connect remotely and do a viewing. Her brother was missing. He was a hiker, and they'd been looking for like 6 days, and they didn't want them to give up. There was a fear of people giving up. Unfortunately, when I connected to him, I knew he was in spirit. And I didn't share that because that goes against the grain of my work, right? Like, I'm not gonna reveal that to someone who is currently searching for their loved one. That's
Would
for
you
them to
be able to
discover.
give them, so in that instance, would you be able to narrow down where they could search and just leave it at
So,
that?
I was able to, do a remote viewing, and I discovered through my viewing that there was a certain ridge, and there was this blue. I f I felt it was like a tent material, um, and I was able to describe, like, from my remote viewing, and I'm seeing it in my mind right now because I remember going back to it, like, where what type of waterway ran down where this ridge was, and about 2 hours later, they were able to locate this area, and they found him.
So while you weren't able to tell them the end result, you were able
Yeah,
to at least allow them to provide them enough information to where they can
yeah,
find this person on their own and still get the closure they needed.
yes, and so the blue was a backpack that had, I don't know, almost like parachute material on the outside, and that's what they were able to see from they were using helicopters, and and they saw the blue, so anyhow, so sometimes, you know, what happened with that is I didn't get it right away when I connected, but he had come to me that night in spirit, and then when I saw the blue in my message, because I saw in my remote viewing the ridge and um but, they were able to then, go find him.
Mhm.
So I did the remote viewing, then reached out and said I saw the blue, and then they went and found him. And this was like several years ago. So, but he had come to me because I left myself open for it. And he showed himself hovering over his body as if, he was looking at himself. And it was a message of saying that I'm going to stay with my body until I'm found.
Until they found. So that was that's actually interesting. So he would not move on until he knew that his family had closure, that he was
So
found.
for him, that's what I believe was happening because, even we think as humans that, or many think that you leave the physical body and you go to heaven, and it doesn't work like that. There is a process
Mhm.
to transmuting into the spirit realm, and people go through life review, and in their life review, they determine if they accomplish everything they set out to do. And this man, you know, in his life review was like, I've got to take care of this. They need to find my body. So,
That's
and
interesting.
I was part of that, which I was honored, but it also was very sad, you
Yeah.
know?
Well,
Yeah.
I could only imagine anytime you're involved with any kind of case like that, just it breaks your heart for so many reasons. You have the
Yes.
family that's carrying that. You have that just being an outsider to that doesn't make you heartless. It makes it almost worse. That I mean, I would think. I mean, I like here in New Hampshire, we had the horrible case of Harmony Montgomery, and
Yep.
I didn't know this family or this child, but your heart just breaks for this little girl, and whom I
Yes.
don't believe they've actually located yet. I mean, we know kind of what happened, but they haven't located her. It doesn't You don't have to have that connection to feel that weight of the loss of a child or that thing or
Yes.
similar. So when you're open up for that and you have that empathy that just I couldn't imagine receiving information like that and being able to
Yes.
just go, that has to be unbelievably difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit much. Last week was a difficult week for me. A lot of times, and I'm not sure why yet, but spirit will bring me people who have similar situations, and I'll get like similar situations for like a week straight. And last week it was men between 20 and 30 who were having issues with addiction, but not okay. So all of them had addiction issues at one point, and because of their addiction, they are struggling with their mental health. And it was just one after the other. And even today, I had two more people reach out because one, like their son, is struggling with his mental health and having schizophrenia type, you know.
Hmm.
And I am not a mental health counselor, but I listen to the soul and, what's disrupted or how we can heal this. And I think people I appreciate that they look at the soul self because we tend to separate that, in mental health. Like we don't, want to go there, right? But these are
Which is
highly
a big
sensitive people.
mistake. You need to go there, and I believe that a lot of the people that are suffering substance right now is because of the lack of qualified and good mental health services around in general. We used to have it back in the 80s, and then someone made the idea of let's close these places down and do everything outpatient and take away the resources. And
Right,
they did that, and that in turn created a whole new thing for people who needed those live-in facilities to be able to get the help they needed because outpatient wasn't working. And it's just like,
right.
gotta solve one problem and create another. And it always gets not enough money for it, which is amazing.
Yeah,
It's because
it's
you
sad.
look everywhere.
I know.
And
It's rough.
but it puts you in a unique perspective to be actually able to take that level and go deeper. I would not have even thought about that. Being able to assist someone with your gifts to be able to maybe get a different insight for them. Because
Yeah.
I would
And
imagine
and
that if
and giving them resources is
yeah,
important to me. I have, my booking assistant, we have a whole list of resources because I will never pretend to be a mental health counselor or a therapist or, you know, and if people do start leaning in that direction, seeking that out from me, I have hard boundaries. I have to remain professional in my field.
but one of
But
what I meant by that was if someone came to you and asked you to read them and
yeah,
you were able to get information from his or her upper self or spirit guides or who were there to protect them, I would think that it would be very profound for someone in that state to hear validation that,
yes,
yeah, there are people close to him even now that,
yes,
that would want to see. And sometimes that I would think could go a long way into finding their, because ultimately they have to be the ones to say, I want to get better. But if they're able
yes,
to hear something that triggers that desire to get better, then all right, have at it.
yeah. And just on that note, there are times when, people are not in a good state of mind. So what I have found very helpful is helping people get out of their heads and coming down into their bodies to learn how to ground better, and really emphasizing, mental health is up here in these upper chakras. So how can we ground ourselves? And so working with their energy body and trying to help them with that. So, yeah,
Now, going back a little bit, just a little bit, do you believe that, first of all, that everyone has the ability that you have, or has the tools inside them to connect like you do?
I do. I believe that we all come in as, we're a spirit, so we're a spiritual being in a human form. So I believe that it is, when people say, oh, that's, you're so gifted or it's such a gift. And it's like, well, gifts are meant to be shared. They're not meant to be kept. Right. So, yes, it's a gift, but it's also something that I have had to work incredibly hard at in terms of gaining the confidence to express myself, believing in my power. Even now, it's like I'm a businesswoman as well. Although I do work as a clairvoyant, I am also, I have to honor what spirit is bringing to me. And I cannot tell you how many people I help just out of the goodness of my heart because spirit wants me to. So, there's a balance there as well. So, yeah.
And are there I don't know if you could say, are there 3 things that if anybody wanted to be able to hone their intuition or hone their gift in a certain direction, are there like 3 exercises that you could say, "All right, try doing this and try doing this"?
Yeah, I teach classes. I just finished a series of developing mediumship for people. It was a 4-week series. And in order to be a medium, you must be psychic first. So, enhancing your telepathy and your psychic skills is imperative in order to build your mediumship. And there are some really fun exercises, and I'll share those. I'll share 2 of them with you. One is to practice envisioning a blank book and seeing the numbers at the bottom of the page as you flip the pages and see how many pages you can visually see the number and keep going because your ability to visualize is really important in clairvoyance.
I don't visualize very well, but
Yeah.
I'm good at writing, but seeing pictures in my head, for some reason, I've never been able to do that.
Yeah. But it's a good thing to practice. And then to elaborate on that, keep building on it. Maybe spelling the word out, ONE, and then flipping the page and do TWO and then, see the number 2. And so it's just a good practice to try. Another is to feel your own energy and see how far, like I'm still feeling the warmth. And the further, yeah, mine stops about right here, right now. But you'll actually feel, no, I'm still feeling it when I do that. So, you know, our our energy body is 5 feet from the center of who we are. We carry 5 feet around with us that is palpable to other people that we can feel. But our energy, it transmutes, far beyond that because you could think of someone and they're getting your energy wave of that thought. So focusing on your energy body is also really important. And so those are 2 like little things and it's, I do a whole series of practices with people, things to enhance in order to enhance your psychic and telepathy. And then moving into mediumship, spirit, they really don't operate the way we do here. We have this earth plane and everything is very dense in terms of energy. I mean, it's all energy, even if it's, a floor is energy. And so spirit exists in the highest frequencies of existence. And this is why we talk about heaven being up and away. So heaven really isn't far away. It's just a vibration or a frequency outside of us, but we speak of it like it's up and away and it's not. It's right outside of us. That's why when loved ones pass, they become part of us. They're a frequency that's connected to us, and we keep them alive within us. So every time you think of someone, you're keeping the cord alive, the cord of energy.
What
So, yeah,
what about going on that, if someone loses someone, whether like a mother or a father, but the meaning or the means of their passing was, oh, it's so hard to go there without. Do they stay? I mean, like, do they remember when they were, let's say a person's in a coma and that person ultimately passes, but do they are they aware of where they're at that time, to where they can say, you did everything what you were supposed to do. I was aware of this. Don't hold this because, even though I was not there, I was there. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if I'm making any sense or not.
So are you talking about spirit, their journey into the afterlife? Like if somebody
I'm actually doing a specific thing. I
Yeah,
wasn't planning on saying this, but I can't,
yeah,
I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question. So
yes,
my mother passed a year ago, February 7th.
yeah,
So just look, but she had MS. She had suffered for MS for a while, and she had gone into uh, unexpectedly endless seizures for the last, I would say, 24 hours of her life.
yeah.
So she was in a place where it was difficult to watch, and but I don't know if she was there during
Right.
that period, or if she had was no longer, what I mean?
Yeah, so what I've seen, and I have chills when you're talking because I was watching your mom. So you that is what I call hovering, and it's when the soul is waiting for the body to pass. And so, although we see suffering, the reality is that they've already, hate to say it, but like, cashed out, like they're done. And so they're hovering over their body, waiting for their body. So when someone goes into a coma like state, or they're not in a conscious state, they are hovering. They're one toe here and one toe in heaven. They're like, I'm done. I've done my work. And now I'm waiting for my body to pass. So, and I've seen that over and over again.
So in essence, the life support, let's say for the
Yes.
coma person, is literally, let's say if there's no hope that they actually come out of it. Let's say they're just being medically kept alive, and so
Yes.
that's got to be. Do they feel resentment for that? If they were ready to go and half of them are already gone, and the family that wants to keep them attached to the machines is keeping I mean, I mean, I know once they go, they don't hold resentment, but I mean, is there a tug of war that the spirit, or that the soul encounters at that
So
point?
I've never, I have connected to people who've had that, or in spirits that have had that, the place of in between as they're, waiting to cross. And I would say that if I were to tune into something like that, my message would be that, we have to trust divine timing, and that I know that spirit would be loving and accepting of whatever situation that transpired, because although we think we're in control, the reality is that spirit is puppeting all of this. It's all planned out before you even come in. So you
Yeah,
think that yeah,
that's what I heard.
yes,
It does make for the I think the family holds on more and
yes,
makes it's harder for the family themselves because they don't, the ultimate, is just moments away. What's the stages of grief denial, that they'll hold on to that just to make sure that that loved one is still here on them physically,
yes,
when,
yeah,
like you said, it's it's written already. It's like
Right.
prolonging an
Yep.
inevitability.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah, that it's been a difficult year, and this particular conversation was I was there in the hospital room with her and left just before she ended up actually passing. But my last vision is of her because it was all the synapses going on. So I had no idea after 20 hours of seizing, it's now all involuntary. So that's why I'm like, am
Yeah.
I watching her actually trying to communicate or not? And I knew
Yeah.
in my head she wasn't because you're
Yeah.
seized for that long. There's no way.
Right.
But that was my last. So I keep
Your
thinking,
last interaction. I
yeah,
know
and I
that's a
keep
hard one, honey. I'm
it's
sorry.
no,
My
it's
mom
tough.
had ALS, and my mom was only 60. And my mom ended up in a nursing home because we couldn't care for her because she needed 24-hour care. And, she was only 60. My parents were just shy of their 40th wedding anniversary when my mom passed away. But my mom had Lyme disease that manifested into what looked like ALS, but it wasn't truly ALS. They just had to label it something. But, our process, our exit is never easy. But what I have noted from spirit is that when they come in, they always want to talk about it to help the living process it, but they have found their peace and their relief and their freedom in the afterlife. Time and time again, I've never heard spirit bring anything other than the message of like being relieved from the human experience. Like, I don't fear death.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
I
I have
don't
work to do here, but I don't fear it because of what I've seen over and over again. And it is true euphoria to be relieved from this human experience because it's a lot of work to be human, you
yeah.
know?
It's yeah,
Yeah.
everybody says I hate adulting. Yeah, well, that on other things too. I mean, I used to be. I'm not anymore. I think there's a lot more. I think there's a lot of proof now that and I think I learned that early on because like you kept saying, "Oh, we are energy." And that's true. We are literally just a ball of energy in a body. Energy doesn't
Yeah.
die. Going back into the deep philosophical question of like we're all created in God's image, and I believe God is this all being light energy, and we are in essence beams of him. So yes, we are. The Bible's not lying. We are made in God's image. We are part of this ball or energy, and we all are His image.
Yeah.
And I've come to that where I'm not afraid of it anymore. It is an interesting place to be, though. Sometimes when you're torn because you want to enjoy life as much as you can, and at the same time you want to be like, "Oh God, just let the comet hit right now," and
Right.
get over to the promised land. But it is an interesting balance beam to walk because experiencing life now has its own high.
Yeah.
A high that we're able to understand being in the physical body that we're in. But we cannot fathom, is my guess, the high that will be when we're back to our natural state, which I
Yeah.
believe is outside of this.
Yeah.
Brandy, your website is brandiewells.com. That's BRANDIEWELLS.com. Real quick, tell me about Shadow and Soul Tea Room or Tea
So it's
Lounge.
Shadow and Soul Emporium and Tea
Emporium. Okay, I'm
Lounge
sorry.
because we have a 5,000 square foot metaphysical store with a tea lounge. And we
I'm
have over
definitely going there.
150 loose leaf teas, but we also do milkshakes and people come from all over for our milkshakes because they're real, like, they're good milkshakes with
Okay.
all natural, delicious ingredients.
Something that
And we
as a
do
type 2
lunches and
diabetic I shouldn't have, but I'll travel to have a milkshake.
oh my gosh, yeah. And we have a lot of fun with the food. But yeah, the store Shadow and Soul, Shadow Side is all about going inward and doing your innermost work. And so that's where you'll find our Oracle Tarot, smudging supplies, herbs. I mean, it's endless. It's all supplies for going inward. And then the soul side is all about going outward and the energy that we give to the world. So it's our hippy dippy happy side. And we have a lot of fun things on that side, the crystals and more meditative, things that invoke joy and raising your vibration. And we have a lot of fun in the store. So
Now, is the store
yeah.
online? Can people from anywhere be able to go visit online or?
It is in the works because we just changed over our point of sale system,
All right.
but you can come to the store at 20 Main Street in Keene, New Hampshire.
Okay. If you're
But
in the new,
we're almost there with the website. We had to change the whole thing over with the new store because we moved. We had 2 small stores and moved into one big one, and it's been a lot. So
well, congratulations on that.
thank you.
I'm going to, you're going to be at Chunky's, was it March 4th?
Yes, March 4th.
And
Yeah.
that begins at 7?
30, I think, but you get there at 7 because they got food and
Food,
everything. But
there's the
I'm gonna
bar.
be I'm gonna be in Concord soon. I'm all over the state. I do everything from paranormal investigating to
We
channelings.
didn't get to talk
So
about
thank you.
that.
I know, it's all good.
I was like, there was something we get some that could be, you know what it is? Because sometimes I don't think about, you think about a paranormal investigator separate than what all the things that you do, and you do so
Yeah,
much. There's so many
I
things
know.
that you
I'm all
do
over the place.
that but it's fascinating, and I would
Thank
think
you.
that there's it's just fascinating. So I'm definitely going to try to get down to see you in person
Yeah,
at Chunky's. And again, I know you were super busy. It's been a blast having you on. I hope you'd
thank
consider
you.
coming on
I'm
again in the
honored.
future.
Yeah, definitely.
You got to check it out. BrandyWells.com. The information will be on the description below. Please like and subscribe. Check out everything she's got to offer. And thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you.